We are having one heck of a time shooting the intro to this one. I'll tell you why. I've got so many things that I want to say. And it's mostly because I just came back from vacation. When you go on vacation, you end up with all sorts of little ideas, like post-it notes in the back of your brain. Little OCD Tennessee fats that's sitting back there writing out all these post-it notes with a Sharpie saying, let's put that in the parking lot for later. By the way, that's wonderful management, horrendous garble speak for those of you who don't know. Let's put that in the parking lot for later. We'll put it up on the board over here and we'll talk about it later when we get to a breakout session. I hate that crap. Anyways, little OCD Tennessee fats in the back of my head has been doing that. And he's been writing all these things down and all these things that I'm supposed to be saying. And I'm like, yeah, those are all great Tennessee fats, but shut the hell up. Point to this video, for those of you who clicked on it, you saw the thumbnail, and the thumbnail says to you, I'm going to be talking about Chuck Dixon's Conan #1, Siege of the Black Citadel today. Now, that's the point. There's your intro right there. The thumbnail is the bloody intro, so let's just get into it. But before we do that, let me tell you what we're going to talk about today in particular. Number one, I'm not going to throw in any spoilers. I'm not going to ruin this book for you. This is a really good short story. I would encourage any of you who are a Conanophile, who really enjoyed Conan's mercenary wandering days, maybe not so much if you enjoy his King Conan days or his, thiefing Zamorin days, but forget all that. If you enjoy his mercenary days, you'll enjoy this book, so go get it. So, no spoilers, but I am going to tell you some of the key strengths that I saw within this book that'll help argue as to why you should buy this. So, without any more of this intro garbage, let's get into the book. Okay, let's talk about this book, all right? So, Siege of the Black Citadel, Chuck Dixon's Conan #1. This is what it looks like. It's a nice little 119-page book. Very cool little paperback, and as you can see, mine is fairly dog-eared because, well, there was a point in time when I was reading this out back and Bean the comic-eating cat was picking a verbal fight with a red-tailed hawk. And I don't know if you know this, but cats and red-tailed hawks, when they're starting to mouth off at one another, generally that can escalate. So this unfortunately took a flying throw at one point in time as I went out to physically break up what I thought was going to be an issue. Bounced through 2 puddles into a 3rd puddle, and that's where it came to rest. So the fact that it actually looks this good now, well, this is a quality production. I'm pretty happy with that. But let's talk about the actual content. Now, let's talk about story first. No spoilers, okay? The story is physically called Siege of the Black Citadel, okay? The title is right there, okay? This is Conan being a mercenary laying siege to Black Citadel, okay? I didn't spoil that. The actual title did. I am going to spoil where it actually physically happened. So now, I think it takes place here. So this is Koth, this is Shem, this is Stygia. Here's a little river going up into Koth. I believe it takes place somewhere near this river. And the reason why I have to say I believe is because the actual place names that are named within the book are vague to the point where I actually can't figure out where it is. And I think Chuck Dixon has done this on purpose. He's done this because he's keeping purposely vague to not be nailed down by anything. And I'll give him 2 points for that. That's clever. I'll give you that, Chuck. The reason why I think it's here is because one of the things that's mentioned in the story is you know that you've got grasslands where things are being fed into Koth, and you know they're coming up a river. Here's a river. You know this is to the west of the desert where reinforcements are coming. That's why there's a sense of timeliness in the story. But you also know that it's somewhere along the western edge of Koth overall. That's why I think it's here. Interesting, because what you have here is you have this sort of meeting point of cultures. You have Shem, Stygia well to the south. Argos is right here. Ophir is just to the north. So you know you've got all these various cultures that are mixing in with Koth right there. And as a result of that, you end up with all these varying points of view and all these varying behaviors, all culminating in one mercenary force sitting here, laying siege to a tower. It's interesting because the key strength I think that is within this is actually the character development. Yeah, it's funny. The story itself is very good. Okay, it's a short, self-contained story, and I really like that in a paperback. But I think the character development is probably why you want to pick this up. Okay, listen, we all know you like Conan. That's why you're here. But Conan, in absentia of everything else, is just boring. That's like Conan sitting in a room surrounded by nothing. It's the world that he lives in that actually makes Conan's stories really, really interesting, because then you have to see his dynamic with that world he lives in. It's not Conan in absentia of everything else. It's Conan with, and Conan with, all these things that have to go with Conan to make a story. What Chuck Dixon does really well is he knows Conan the Mercenaries. We've seen that in all the Savage Storage stories that he's written. It's right through his material. You can see it. He knows it really well. But his key strength in this is actually character development and building the world around him in a really short, tight context. And I think that comes from his pedigree in comics of how do I create this character, get it in here and make it well known enough that everybody's going to be okay with it. So when we get to the point where we get to a culmination, everybody's going to know, that's what's happening. Oh, that's why I care about that person. There's one particular character that's within this that really spoke to me. Grew from nothing but a spark on one page and really a small position in the overall story. To the point where when we were probably halfway through that person's little interlude within the book, I completely identified with them. I knew exactly who they were. And it's funny because they rang so much to me as manservant Hecubus from the pit of ultimate darkness that every time that character spoke thereafter, all I heard was the voice of manservant Hecubus talking. Now, for those of you who know who manservant Hecubus is, well done. That is a deep cut. If you had to Google it, that's cheating, okay? But still, I'm going to give you 2 points for at least looking it up because that is a solid character most people should know. Manservant Hecubus, pit of ultimate darkness. Get yourself out there and find out what that's all about. But back to this. The character development is such that I was able to go right to that midpoint of character story and interlude where I was able to identify it, know it, and care about it. To the point where when it went out of the story, I was going, wow, that was something. There's a, quite frankly put, 2 young ladies in this. I'm not going to go into detail as to who they are. And the little interlude they had in the story is enough where I'm saying, okay, I want an entire book about nothing but them. And bear in mind, I think they only had 6 pages of written material, not even, I think it was probably closer to 4 pages of written material within the book. That is the strength of the author, and that is the strength of what you're actually getting within this, is that character development going from 0 to 1,000 within a very short period of time to the point where you care about the characters enough that you want to know what's happening going on and you're emotionally invested within them to make the story emotionally hit. You get the feels in this one. And quite frankly put, well done. So if you like character development, if you like what this guy was going for in here, and if you like Mercenary Age of Conan the Barbarian, not necessarily the King Conan, it doesn't quite gel with that. And probably not very well with the whole early thieving part, although the thieving part does come in. If you like that aspect of Conan, trust me, you will like this, you will want to get into this. 1, for the story, but 2, for the characters. Well, everybody, that's today's video. Really what I wanted to do is keep this really short and just highlight what I thought some of the key takeaways from this book were. Honestly, I think it was really well written. Nice production, obviously, in the physical book because, hell, this thing took a beating. It looks fine. But at the end of the day, it really comes down to the content. Everybody, I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll see you in the next one. All right, it's been a while since we did one of these, so let's get into it. Guys, it's been a bit, I mean a hot minute, since the point in time when we did the last one of these sort of deep cut right at the end of the video type comments. And I figure it's time. I tell you, the rant of Tennessee Fats today. I'm going to show you something, and there's going to be a quiz at the end, so get ready. This month has been a heavy one for the pick-em-up truck. The Tennessee Fats pick-em-up truck has taken one hell of a beating over the last month. I'm talking serious mileage, and there's a reason for that. And it's a long, involved story we're not going to get into here. But what this particular story pertains to is the importance of actually taking notes. It's funny, years ago, and I'm talking years ago, I was driving north through Kentucky. This is, by the way, this is, in case you're wondering, this is what I look like when I'm driving. Just like that. I'm driving north through Kentucky, and I'm getting through Cincy-Wetsits. And by the way, for any of you who know what Cincy-Wetsits is, that is an incredibly deep SCTV cut. If you're a Canadian and you watched SCTV, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Because when the entire time I was driving through Cincy-Wetsits at the time, go back to me driving, okay? The entire time I was driving through Cincy-Wetsits at the time, all I was saying to myself is, so did you drive or did you float? And again, if you watched SCTV and you're a Canadian, you know exactly what that actually refers to. So anyway, so as I'm driving through Cincy-Wetsits, I look over and I'm like, what the f***? Like, mind blown. Almost went off the road. I was so distracted at the time. Now you say to me, Tennessee Fats, what in God's green earth could you have seen in Cincy-Wetsits that was so important that you almost went off the road? Well, it literally triggered one of those stupid memories of the OCD me in the back of my head. Little child Tennessee Fats OCD me, which is about the size of about this, in case you're curious. He went freaking balls to the wall nuts. So finished the drive, went all the way home, and I'm talking days later. And I'm sitting here ticketing on the Google. I'm like, since it what sits, and then I typed in some particular words. I'm not going to tell you what those particular words were, but I typed it in and I went, holy balls. So this time I'm driving north through Kentucky and I'm heading into Cincinnati. And I'm saying to myself, wait a minute, Tennessee Fats, that little annoying OCD child version of you, he said there's a thing here. You gotta go check that out. So here's what I did. I stopped and I did a thing. So I'm gonna try to do some sort of fancy magic here, where I'm gonna try to make it so you're not looking at me talking. You're gonna see the actual image of what I found. And now, what you're seeing here, if this works incredibly well actually, is an image of me standing in a particular pose in front of a building. Now, you're gonna say, Tennessee Fats, what the fridge about this could have anything to do with child version of you going completely balls to the wall nuts in the back of your head? Well, you got to get yourself out there and you got to think. Here's the only hint I'm going to give you. Gleek the Wonder Monkey. That's right. That's the only hint you're getting from. Okay, let's get back to me. Snap. All right. So you're back to me now. I've given you a hint. I want you to get out there and try to figure out what the hell I'm talking about and why this building is so important and what it actually means to the child inside you. Because I'll tell you, this is one of those OCD things that comes to the comic collector in me. It has nothing to do with Conan, but it does have to do with some wonderful childhood memories. Everybody, if you can figure this one out, I'm going to be impressed.